Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlyn
and Tori,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. We're super excited to have Jeni Nguyen with us today. Jeni is a creative problem solver, passionate about crafting beautiful, thoughtful designs. With a background in bespoke architecture, she thrives in big picture strategy and moves fluidly across design disciplines. Working at the intersection of storytelling and design thinking, Jeni strives to reveal meaning in every product. As the founder of Bink Rabbit Goods, she designs elegant, rabbit-safe furniture solutions and lifestyle products that elevate the connection between pet bunnies and the humans who love them. Her work has been published in Dwell, Design Milk, Domino, Apartment Therapy, and other publications. Through Bink, Jeni is redefining what it means to live harmoniously with house rabbits. Thanks so much for being here, Jeni.
We're so happy to have you on. I was telling you right before this, I'm so excited to talk to you about this.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start off with the question that we always ask, which is, what is your Take the Leap story? What really motivated you towards entrepreneurship?
Okay, big question. So for me, I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I never grew up thinking I wanted to own my own business. It never popped into my brain. And I think a lot of that was just the conditioning in the household I grew up in. My parents, they're Vietnamese refugees, and they definitely believed in having a career only, or else that's it. Like there's no other option. Career or die, or at least I know that sounds like really dire, but it definitely felt that way growing up. So let's see. Fast forward to when I decided to take the leap. It happened during COVID, so I feel like this was pretty common for a lot of folks. Where COVID happened, it was a really strange, hard time. You know, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. And for me, one of the ways to cope with that was just getting lost in creativity and making my home a safe refuge where I wanted to be. And like a lot of other folks, I started questioning like everything. I was like, is this really what I want to be doing in life? Like, what am I doing here? Like, what do I really want? And once I got a little bit more clarity on, I don't know, like, yeah, just like what gave me life, what gave me joy, you know, to pull me out of that really heavy mindset. The more I dug into what started as a creative outlet, turned into just this like inspiration to be like, okay, let's just see where this goes. Like, let's see what happens, you know? So, so during COVID, I started with designing my dream product, the thing that I wanted for me and my bunnies, because it didn't exist out there. If I could buy it, I would have bought it, but it didn't. So I made it. And so I made like the perfect thing that I wanted using my background in architecture. I was like, okay, how do I like create something that like reduces? So I don't know if you guys know very much about bunnies. Well, I know Ashlyn does because
I do now.
Yeah. But bunnies can be litter box trained like a cat, and they can live as long as a dog.
Oh my God.
And so my bunnies, they're 10 and 12 years old, and they are litter box trained, and they hop around my house just like a cat, and they have free range of our living area for the most part. And messy hay is like one of the biggest problems that I sought to solve. And so I created our product is our flagship product is basically it's a litter box cover that is that looks like furniture. And so it covers the litter box, it hides the hay mess, it makes it so much easier to like live with bunnies and cohabitate with them in your living area, your living space. And so I was like developing that product for myself, and I figured like, well, I can't be the only bunny person in the world who lives like this. I know they're not as popular as cats and dogs, but I know they're pretty popular. So the more I dug into it, the more research I did, I was like, hey, wait a second. I think this might be an opportunity. Like, why not me? Why not I do this? You know, like I want really, well-designed, nice things for my bunnies. Like I see other people doing this for cats and dogs. Like, why can't I have nice things? And I was like, okay, well, why don't we try this and like see what happens? And there's been a lot of ups and downs from that point. And we're going through it now, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So did that answer your question?
No, that was excellent. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I relate to so many things. Like I still feel like my family is just like, what do you mean you're an entrepreneur? Like they're like, what do you mean you don't work for anybody? I'm like, no, I work for myself. Like that's like a thing. But yeah, we don't have a ton. We have nobody on the females, like any women in my family who are entrepreneurs. We have like men who are, but yeah, so that I definitely relate to that because my grandma continuously asks me like, it's still working, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't gone back to working anywhere else.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was so cool that you went this route to design a product that you felt like you could use that didn't exist out there. And then of course, like you can't be the only one who wants something like that. And I mean, they are like really beautiful, like furniture pieces. Like they're nicer than furniture that a lot of people have in their house as well. So yeah, I think it's really cool that you made like not only a furniture piece, but also like a lifestyle, a lifestyle brand essentially out of this. So that is super cool.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. I love the products that you put together, and it's just something like, because I don't own a bunny, it's something that I never would have thought of, but that doesn't mean there isn't a market out there for it. And I love that you kind of took your idea and you're like, okay, well, they may not be as popular as cats and dogs, but there's still a huge market out there. And I think that's just a really good reminder for people of just because you think what you're doing or the thing that you create is super, super niche, like there could still be a good sized market out there for you. And until you do that research and you look into it, I mean, you'll never know. And so to, just to kind of like have that faith in yourself and to kind of explore that further is really cool. And yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, there's like so much more, that inspired me to get there, but I would say that's probably like one of the things. I don't know if you guys want me to like dig into the other stuff, that I feel like might be a little bit boring. Just,
Oh, we want to hear it. We want to hear it all. Yeah, whatever you're willing to share with us, we want to hear it.
Well, I guess like, okay, so one part is like, finding that creative outlet to just like get lost, have some sense of joy in my life. And this is that thing that was like, it kept me afloat, like mentally, emotionally, right? And then what I felt like was maybe competing with that in my own world was like that frustration of like, like I said before, in the past, I never thought entrepreneurship was for me. I didn't have people in my family that I ever started businesses that I knew of. It always felt like such a risky, scary thing to do. Like that's not for us. That's for other people, and in my career, like it felt like I basically, at the end of the day, like I got super burnt out doing what I was doing. And I think a big part of it was because it wasn't totally aligned with what my what I wanted to get out of life. So like my creative fulfillment is so important to me, and I felt like my career was just like pushing that to the max, where it like tipped into a place where I was like no longer doing it for the joy of working. It was more like, now I'm like working really hard all the time, working toward a deadline, like 60 to 80-hour weeks, like nonstop. And I was like, and I wasn't quite making the financial outcome that I wanted to be making, you know? And I just felt like, well, if I'm working this hard and it feels like everyone around me is getting successful, but not me, like, why? Like, I want to experience some of that success. So, like, why don't I, you know, work super hard, probably make the same amount and just see where it goes? So.
That's such a huge thing. And thank you for saying that, because I feel like so many people relate to that point right there. Is even if we didn't see it modeled for us and what that looks like, we're all getting kind of burnt out. And especially if you're a strong values person and you place that, happiness in like your career and your job of like, I want to be creatively fulfilled from this. I don't just want to come home and, grab an okay paycheck and then go on with my life. Like, I really want to get some fulfillment from this. Then you're probably not going to be happy working for someone else, or at least, if you're in the wrong company. And so it's like a really good reminder, because I don't feel like you're the only one who experiences that. I feel like that's a very common thread for a lot of entrepreneurs who just kind of found themselves in entrepreneurship for that reason.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. And I don't even know if it's like the right firm or not. It was also like realizing so, okay, when I grew up, I thought I wanted to be an artist, and big red flags, like if you can imagine, from like the strong parental side. They were like, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
And so then that's where I kind of was like, well, I'll try architecture. Like that's art adjacent feeling, and seeing how that goes. And it was so much fun, and I got so much out of it. And I gained so many skills that I wouldn't have been able to have otherwise, like that have really helped launch me into entrepreneurship. Like I feel that I'm like really well resourced within myself, that I don't want to be like at the stage in my business journey. I don't want to be like wearing all the hats, and I'm sure a lot of people relate to that. But I feel very lucky that I have gone through that like architecture boot camp to be able to do a lot. So like I've done our website, I do a lot of the graphic design, I do a lot of the content creation, caption writing, and the actual product design work of it all too. This is all just say, like, I think a lot of that burnout was like, it came from lying to myself that architecture was it, and because it was so close to, and I'm still trying to define what it is, what I really want to be doing, and like what does bring that fulfillment. But right now it feels like my business is that creative playground where I can exercise and flex all these different muscles creatively, and it's not just pigeonholed to like just architecture, just design. And I think sometimes I guess my point in saying all of this is that I want to be careful not pointing fingers at like people outside of me, saying like, oh, it's their fault, they put me in this position, or I got burnt out because this workplace was so hard. And I think at the end of the day, it was, for me at least, it was really looking into myself of like, oh, that wasn't quite aligned with what I really wanted to be doing, and I didn't know that yet until I took the leap.
Thank you for saying that. I love how you phrase that, because that's so true. And I think if we could all listen to ourselves and listen to our bodies and be like, oh, this doesn't align with me at all, I feel like we could make decisions faster. And I feel like, at least for me, like I still to this day kind of struggle with that. Like, oh, this isn't quite aligning, or this isn't feeling right. And it's kind of like this active practice that I have to keep at. So yeah, thank you for saying that. I love that.
Same. I don't have it figured out. I'm continuously practicing all the time.
I don't think any of us do.
Yeah.
It's just a good reminder. We just keep trying, right? I love that. Well, kind of along the same lines, what piece of advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now, to the person that started your business, 5 years ago?
Okay, I love that. So many pieces of advice. Okay. Well, so yeah, along those lines is practice listening to your gut,
Yeah.
and really so for me, I'm a little bit woo-woo. Ashley and
we
I
are too.
We are too.
we are too. Fine.
We are too.
Okay, woo.
You're just okay. I've been using human design as a tool to help me listen to my own gut better and make decisions, and it works for me. And I don't have it figured out, but I've been seeing really positive results with it. So that's advice A. It's like whatever that may look like just listen to your insides and find a way to do that better. That's the advice I give myself. The other one was this is the process. Have more patience, have a lot more patience, and give yourself grace that this is what it looks like to do something new. It's not going to be comfortable. Something that I came across in this journey is the level of how uncomfortable you can be, the tolerance of how uncomfortable you can be determines the level of success that you will experience.
I love that.
Yep, that's so true. It's like, all right, let's get uncomfortable. Let's get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I love that.
Yeah,
I'm going to write that down and put that.
That is definitely a quote that we are stealing for advice, but that is so true because the level of uncertainty that you will deal with as an entrepreneur, and you just get used to it. Like, I feel like this far in, I'm just like, oh, that might happen. Okay, we can just be more prepared for it next time. And then going back to what you said before, having that self-awareness about you, I think is so, so important. Like, what drives you? What motivates you? What are you going to be like? I'm never going to ever want to do that. And so I have to figure out what my dangling carrot is that's going to get me to follow through on that. But those are all things that are so important in entrepreneurship, is realizing that there is going to be a lot of times that you're going to have to figure it out. It's going to be slow and you're going to wish that you had already known how to do it. But, it's just like everything else, we have to learn by trial and error and failure, and really taking those lessons as we go along. So yeah.
Totally. That was one of the other pieces too, of just I would give myself is learn how to fail faster. Failing is part of the process. And in that sense, okay. So something that's really, really helped me is adopting a growth set mindset, or a growth mindset, in having that approach where you're constantly learning, right? So in that sense, failure isn't really a thing. It's just part of the learning process. It's like you learn something new, you find out you're not good at it, you look back and you're like, okay, this is how you improve it, this is how you tweak it, this is how I would do it next time. And you just do it again until it's not, hard anymore. Mm-hmm. And back to what you were saying about that self-awareness piece too, I feel like in the beginning, I used to be so hard on myself for not being able to do everything amazing. And now I'm much more accepting of oh, that's just not what my strengths are. Those tasks are not for me. Those tasks are for somebody else. Or someone, I can ask somebody who does know more than me to teach me how to do those things, or, instead of reinventing the wheel over and over again. So having not only that, self-awareness, but also self-acceptance, and then having acceptance in yourself to being able to have that for other people has been super helpful. And being able to see I wasn't put on this earth to be the numbers person. Somebody else in this world is that person, and I want to work with that person,
That is totally, totally fair.
I relate to that hardcore.
Awesome. Okay, one more question before we jump into the hot seat questions. What is your why? Why Bink? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah. Okay, so my why. I wish I could say something like, I want to make the world a better place and, and save people's lives, and which I do. I do want to make the world a better place. But for me, I think my biggest why, and sometimes I have trouble accepting it, but it's what fuels me is that pursuit of creative fulfillment. It brings me so much happiness and joy to make things that I'm really proud of. And I just want to do that all the time. And it, for me, it's like I want to make things that are functional and beautiful a lot. And I really want to bring that to things that make me happy, whether that looks like rabbits today or maybe tomorrow it's, another problem to be solved. Um, so like, I think I really do, if I'm being quite honest, like my why is that pursuit of creative fulfillment, just to show to myself that it's possible, and then to show to other people if they are interested in, that pursuit, that it's possible for them too. I'm nervous about, like, I get all, I don't know. I just don't want to, like, I don't want to sound like that, like, like I would say in the beginning, I thought that was my motivation. It was like, I want to show younger me that it's possible for younger me, and like, or anybody who looks like me, that type of like sentiment. But I'm finding as of late, like, that didn't come from the right place for me. And I think I need to like step back and be like, actually, I'm truly just doing this for me. Like, for me, for my own joy, showing to myself that it's possible, and showing to myself that, like, caring about art and beauty and aesthetics and, design it's not all vain, that it is, something that, something that I've been struggling. I feel like I'm like stumbling through this answer.
Oh, it's okay. No, yeah.
But it's really helping me like kind of like suss out like where I was and where I am now. So like, I think maybe a little bit of context that might help with something that I've struggled with in the past is like owning up to how like beauty and design and aesthetics and all those things, like they are a worthy thing. And I didn't always believe that, Like, I didn't, and that was really, what was really hard, because it was like, this is my gift that I can offer the world, but it's really hard for me to own up to charging for it, or like seeing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I grew up in a place where, and I think this might be common for some folks, like, unless like beauty and aesthetics are all vain, or like, function and utility are the only thing that matter. Like those are the things that have value. My dad was an engineer, so that might be a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I like to like make things look good, and it was really hard for me to own up to that. And so it's this like really strange like tension of like, well, this is what I offer the world, and yet like I'm having a really hard time owning up to that. So I guess this is all to say, like, my why is to like step into that and own up, and like, actually, people do value this. Like, people like, people are drawn to beautiful things for a reason. It's like, it's healthy for us to like want to be surrounded by things that make us feel good, because it lifts our spirits, and it like, inspires us, right? And so when I'm able to like step into that place of like, oh, wait a second, like when I take a moment to just appreciate the design in my own home, stuff that I haven't designed myself, it helps me remember like helps me remember that. I don't know. This was a really long, like
That's
winded.
I
okay.
loved
Yeah.
your answer. I thought that
Yeah.
was really powerful. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, as a society, like maybe like some of us do have a harder time placing weight on things that are beautiful, but we need those things. And I think regardless of your reasons for, starting it, like doing it for you is totally acceptable. Like there's nothing wrong with just doing something for you. And I feel like I mean, not to bring it here, but I feel like if a man were to start something for himself, like nobody would bat an eye, about that. So I feel like I say, if you're going to do this for you, do it, go for it.
Yeah.
I would, yeah. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. It's doing it for me first, and then it's kind of like I've been thinking about this a lot. It's the oxygen mask, analogy of like I need to put my oxygen mask on first before I can help other people. So it's like my why is just to prove to myself these things do matter. Art matters. Like
Mhm.
I was getting so
Yes.
inspired by like watching a ton of music videos over the weekend. I'm like, people took a risk to like create this beautiful music that moves people, and it just like you are connected like on a soul level by just like art. And for
Absolutely.
me, like that's something that is just so inspiring. And I like it starts with trying to prove that to myself first, but then outside of that, it's like hoping and like what I'm hoping is that it also inspires other people or like it helps like in a bunny person who is so frustrated every single day by like the messy hay and they come home and it's not this like place that they feel comfortable. If I can help free up some of that mental capacity of like, oh, I love being at home, like they can reach,
Yeah.
and like
Mhm.
be inspired to do their own thing, like whatever that may look like.
That's so
Mhm.
important. That's so important.
Yeah.
Like our home is our space, right? That's
Yeah.
where we get to
Mhm.
unwind. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
what you're doing is incredible. And yeah, I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
in any point in time, whether our country or world is going through a dark time or not so dark of time, like people tend to look towards beautiful things, towards arts, towards everything for hope and inspiration. And whether that's, um artwork in a museum or just the way your home looks and feels, like those are the things that people are going to look to for comfort and rest and rejuvenation. So I feel like that's just as important as anything else.
Mhm. Yeah. It's a major part of like well-being and like human connection too, like as well, everything that is art
Yeah.
and design world. So yeah. And I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, is like people get rid of bunnies when they can't make them fit their homes. So like you're really doing a great service to people not feeling terrible that they're going to give up an animal, and then also bunnies that they can have
Yeah.
a happy life.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that saying how like a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Mhm.
So one of the big things that I hope that Pink can do is like help people have those conversations with each other, like that bunnies are actually so much more sophisticated than they think. Like what you were saying is like people, they're so misunderstood that people will adopt a bunny and be like, oh, they get really excited around Easter, they get really excited around Christmas, they adopt a bunny, they think it only lives like maybe a year or two or something, and they didn't realize what they were really getting themselves into and that they're a 10-year commitment. And so like in the bunny world, there's like this big problem of like abandonment and
Oh,
misunderstanding, and like shelters are flooded with bunnies all the time. So by showing and giving this like higher level of premium care with bunnies, I hope that like that starts to shift over time and people start to realize like, oh, wait a second, this person, they live with bunnies. Like it takes a lot more than the layperson might realize and start having those conversations. And then all of a sudden, like the what do you call it? The awareness, is raised on the that bunnies are a thing, and they are not pets to be abandoned. Yeah.
Absolutely. They're just as deserving of love and support as any other pet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very sweet. Well, are we ready to dive into the hot seat questions? They're not really that hot or not really that crazy.
Spicy. Yeah.
We just like to make them sound fun. So my first question in this round is, what is the best and or worst piece of advice you've received throughout your career?
Oh. Okay. The best and or worst. I think there's so many pieces that I've come across. What's the best advice that I've ever come across? I mean, one of them really was like that line of like, just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable, it means that you're growing, and that's where you want to be. So that's my opinion, I suppose.
I love that. That's great.
Awesome. Okay, so I have the next question. Can you share a little bit about what it was like to do the research for creating your furniture products and or any of the other products that you've built out in your product line?
What was the research like?
Yeah, to get to the point, because, well, I know a little bit more in depth about the process.
Well, with this product, it was really like just putting on my designer hat on and problem solving my own problems, right? So like that's like the R&D for the product side of it, right?
Yeah.
For I guess more of the business side of it, I rely so much on my gut, and I don't know if that's like the best thing to do in the world. And I'm trying to learn how to like analyze data better, but this is where we're starting, right? So growth mindset. So on the other side of the research, like there's so like, okay, so there's looking into like other bunny influencers, just trying to understand in a gut sense like how big the market is. Like there's resources where you could tap into like the American Pet Product Association or like the library and stuff to try to get a lot of those numbers, but there just isn't a lot of data collected for rabbits, right? Because they're not as popular as cats and dogs, but there is some. So, doing what I can, collect what I can, just to like get a gut check of like, how big could this be? In 2019, I found out that the pet rabbit industry was like $170 million or something. And I found that to be a surprise. I also found out that they're the third most popular companion animal. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty popular. They're the third most abandoned pet. And so these were all just like indicators of like, okay, I think there's something maybe here. But I didn't really know until I launched the product. So this is where I took a huge risk, where I got to that place where it's like, during pandemic-y times, I was like, I want something different. I need something different in my life. Like I've reached a point of burnout where I am not healthy, and I need to like try something. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I was doing, it's not working. I need to try something different. And so that's where my pendulum from being scared went to like, okay, time to get brave, try to do something. And I've had to like learn how to bring that pendulum back to the middle a little bit, but it was at that point I was like, we're diving all in. So I invested like my life savings. I pulled, I took a loan from my home. I'm so privileged that I was able to do that. And I poured it all into creating this product and launched a Kickstarter in 2022. And that was where I was like crossing my fingers. I have no idea if anybody wants one of these, And turned out people did. And so I not only successfully funded our Kickstarter, but I nearly 3x'd it. And that was proof of concept. That was where like, okay, my gut was right. There is something here. So there is something here to pursue that, that is worth going after. And even if it like all tanks or whatever, I would not give up this experience. Like this has been the best experience of my life. And I'm so happy that I did it. Like, because I know that if it's not this, like it'll be something else, now that I have entrepreneurial bug, it's in me. I can't even see myself going back at all. Like there's no way.
Relate to that.
Yeah, we're very much the same in that regard.
That's awesome. Okay, so my next question is, what's something that kind of surprised you about going into a business where you sell products, whether it's like about the production process, the creation, the like shipping and getting things to customers? Like what's something that like really surprised you from that?
I thought one of the easiest tasks would be to develop the product. And then the harder thing would be to find the customers. I've had the opposite experience. It's actually been easier for me to find customers, believe it or not. And it's been harder for me to successfully, what's the word? Like manage our supply chain. I don't know the right term for that. But you like
the vendors, the production process, right? Yeah.
Getting the product into the hands of the customers.
Yeah. And that's fair. I mean, it's a pretty complicated, or it can be a pretty complicated process for any product, I would think. And so, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of logistical things with a furniture product item that are really, really challenging. And it makes me like realize like, oh, that's why there's not a lot of online furniture companies that exist, because it's really hard to, do a e-commerce business with such a large product that requires so much upfront investment in purchasing materials. Like, where do you store those materials? Where do you store the product after it's built? And all those things have costs associated with it. So
absolutely. To kind of tag off of that, just because I'm curious, how does your production work? Like, do you have a space, or is it in your home, or like how? Yeah, like because your products are not super small, so how would you?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, what we do is that we pre-sell orders, and then once we get the orders, we make them and we deliver them to the customers.
That's great.
That might change in the future, but that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Smart.
Made to order makes sense. Yeah.
So I don't personally make them. I work with vendors locally here in Portland, and they're expert craftsmen. I connected with them through my architecture contacts, doing different interior installs and things like that. So I'm leaning on my past experience and my past contacts to really make these beautiful functional pieces. So
that's wonderful. Awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, I've got our next question. So you are clearly passionate about your rabbits, Elvis and Betty. Can you share what life was like before you had the furniture for them, and how it has improved your lifestyle and your life with them and theirs?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for asking this question. Okay. So when I first got Elvis, he's my first bunny, I was just in love. But there was such a huge learning curve on like how to do all of it. Like how to what hay to buy, where to buy the hay, what vet to go to. You have to go to an exotic pet vet. Like, where does this person exist?
Which that just seems so odd. Bunnies don't seem like an exotic pet, but that makes sense that most vets don't know how to serve them.
So funny.
Right. And so like I'm like going through all this learning curve, and like at first he was in a smaller enclosure, right? We lived in a studio apartment, and then I let him out, and he was like, free roaming and things like that. But there was like like, I didn't know what it was like to have a bunny. It was my first one. So he was like chewing on my furniture. He was like eating like anything that you would put on the ground was like free range to have nibbles in it. He like ate my clothes and my books and all the things. I was like, what is going on? What kind of chaos did I introduce into my life? And then like there's hay everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, not only am I, having everything destroyed, now I'm drowning in hay. What am I doing? Like, this can't be okay. But I was so enamored by him. There's no way I was going to give him up. I didn't want to like do that. And so I was like, okay, I am determined to figure out how to cohabitate with you. And so, let's see, fast forward a little bit later, me and my husband, we bought a house. And at that time, we also had Betty. So Betty was in our world now too. And they were living in a bunny room. So I feel like this is really common with bunny people. They start with maybe an enclosure setup. It's too chaotic. They move them into a room. And so they were in there for some time, and we were all acclimating to the new house and like doing some build projects here and there. And I finally feel like I settled over like the learning curve. I like learned how to like rabbit proof the space and things like that. And the last thing that was like really frustrating for me was that they weren't as affectionate with me as I wanted them to be. So I saw a lot of like bunny people online, and they would have these super affectionate rabbits. And I got really jealous. I was like, I want my bunnies to love me back too. What the heck? Like, I'm putting in all this work. Like, you guys can't just like snuggle me for a second. And so what I realized was like, oh, I just need to figure out how to spend more time with them, like for us to really develop a bond together, And so that's where I put my designer hat on. I was like, okay, so I have this issue with my bunnies don't love me back like I want them to. I have this issue with the messy hay, and I have this issue with wanting to spend more time with them. And so I was like, okay, how do we problem solve this? So that's where I was inspired to bring the bunnies into my living space and be like, okay, duh, I spend more time with them by just like living with them.
Having them here. Yeah.
Right. And so, but in doing that, it, opened up another Pandora's box of a bunch of other problems to solve. I was like, okay, well then how do I like make it look good and like integrate it into my home, and how do I keep all the messy hay contained and this and that, right? And so it was just like one thing led to another, and that's where I was like, okay, I've seen this before in other pets. Like dogs have furniture style kennels, or cats have furniture style litter boxes. I was like, I can do something like that for bunnies, why not, right? And so that's where the idea was born, and that's how it solved like all these different bunny specific problems for me. And like soon after bringing them into the living room, hypothesis was correct. The bunnies became so much more affectionate. Like it just was, we were able to passively, they were able to passively earn, no, other way around. I earned their trust. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm not that, scary of a person or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like by just spending more time together inevitably like deepened our like bond together. And so so now they like they're really cute, and also learning how to read their very subtle body language, and being accepting that like, okay, bunnies are prey animals, a lot of them don't like being picked up, and I have to be okay with that, and that they show love in other ways, and that means so much to me. So like they'll like, when they want attention, they'll come up and they'll like hang out with us on the couch. Like when they choose to hop on the couch and hang out with us and like, want to like nudge our hand or like lick our hands and stuff. Like that's their version of cuddling. And I'm like, that's means so much to me. I'm like, I'm that person who I don't know why, but I love a pet where I earn their trust, because it just really means something special. It's like they chose, they chose me. Like we worked on this together.
Mm-hmm. That's so sweet. I love their names. Oh my goodness, so cute.
Betty and Elvis. Yeah.
That's adorable. I love any pet that has like a good, solid, like human name. Like my friend had a dog named Kevin. It was very sweet.
It was really cute.
Just, yeah, names are great. Well, that's incredible. And I am so happy for you and your little rabbits. And I think what you're doing is amazing. And before we wrap up, I do have one more hot seat question. And we're asking this to all of our guests. And that is, what song is on repeat in your playlist right now?
Oh, okay. Right now, it's Jessie by Lola Young. Oh,
Good one.
have you guys heard of it?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, just like that tension between either not being enough or being too much.
Yes.
Like that gets me.
Oh my gosh, yes. I love that song a lot. Awesome.
Love that. Well, that is the end of our questions. Thank you so much for being on. Was there anything else that you want to share? Maybe when you're going to have products available for launch again? Nudge, nudge.
So our next drop is Easter, the bunny holiday. And so we'll be releasing pre-orders again. So if you are a bunny person looking to massively upgrade your life and elevate bun life, like check out binkrabbitgoods.com. And if you're not ready yet, that's okay. We got so much other stuff too. We got free resources. We have a free bun guide on our website. So it's a little ebook that teaches you how to cohabitate. So it teaches you how to like hide your rabbit's litter box on any budget. So it doesn't have to be our products, and teaches you how to choose furniture that's bunny friendly. So it's like an interior designer's lens at how to live with bunnies more harmoniously. And if you want to support, you can also get, we have smaller merch on our website too. So we have these really cute Bunny and Me stoneware and apparel, some other stuff coming soon. But everything we create is around developing and fostering that loving connection between you and your bunny, and bringing a bit more beauty and ease into your life in doing so.
That's wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, listeners, for tuning into this episode of Take the Leap. As always, if you have any questions for us or our guests, please DM us on Instagram at Take the Leap. I think it's underscore today. This is bad me for not knowing what our handle is.
We can go back
or send us an email at aloha@taketheleap-today.com, and we will see you for the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, can I add
one more? Go for it. Yeah.
You can follow us on our Instagram at binkrabbitgoods.com. Or no, at bink.rabbitgoods.
All good. We'll get Instagram right one of these days.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.